Did you know that I quit my job for chicken farming? And yes, I do not regret it. I started with 1,000 chickens, 500 broilers and 500 layers. No shortcuts, no miracles, just courage, consistency and belief. And yes, I made over 1 million shillings. This is the money I had never touched in all my years inside polished offices and glass walls. This is my story, and if you stay with me, I will reveal exactly what happened and how I got here, because by the end of this video, you will understand something very powerful. You will understand that job you call security is sometimes just a jail disguised as comfort. It drains your energy, steals your time, and slowly eats into your life. And before you realize it, you retire with nothing truly to show on. You will have nothing on your name. So stay with me. I am about to answer the critical questions that can change your entire future before you even realize it. Have you ever had everything on paper but nothing on your heart? Let me tell you a story. I had a degree in my hand, a bank job on my chest, a salary at the end of every month, and yet inside me, there was a quiet emptiness that echoed louder than the office halls. The pressure was relentless, the hours were endless, and the dreams, they were slowly suffocating beneath the files, targets, and fluorescent lights. From sunrise to sunset, I belonged to the clock. My time was rendered, my energy was taxed, my passion was postponed. Until one day, I chose freedom over fear. I walked away from the bank job, of course not to rest, but to rise again. I stepped into the dust, the feathers, the early mornings of chicken farming, and in that simple soil, I found something priceless: purpose. Today, this small farm pays me more than my job ever did, but more importantly, it gives me time, peace, and of course it gives me power. I am no longer an employee. I am the employer, and this is my story. If you are on the rat race, waking up every single day of God to chase a job that barely chases your dreams, look at this. You leave home in the dark, you return in the dark, Monday to Friday, week after week, month after month. Yet your pockets remain light, and your spirit grows heavier. Well, you are not alone. I was there too. Just fresh from the graduation, I was armed with a certificate, hope, and ambition. I walked straight into the polished halls of a bank, air-conditioned offices, neat suits, targets on screens, and of course smiles on the surface. But behind those glass walls, pressure lived inside me. Deadlines breathed down my neck. Numbers ruled my emotions, and of course time was truly not on my side. So every morning the alarm clock became my master. Every evening I was so exhausted, and exhaustion became my companion. Lunch breaks were rushed, dreams postponed, and I felt like my life was slowly becoming a routine, not a journey. Yes, the salary came, but so did the stress. Yes, the job had a status. Of course, in the community, when people hear you are working in a bank, you know what I mean, right? But that job stole my freedom. Inside me, a question kept growing louder. Is this really what I studied for? Is this really the life that I prayed God for? I had a job, but I did not have peace. I had income, but I did not have time. I had security, but I didn't have control. And that is when I realized sometimes the greatest prison has no walls, only comforts. I quit my job for chicken farming. And when I was walking out of the office, there was no applause, no farewell party, no safety net beneath my feet. Just a resignation letter in my hand and a storm in my chest. The bank, of course, had given me stability, but it had stolen my soul. And so, trembling but determined, I walked away from the desk and walked direct into the dust, No suit, no tie, just boots, sweat, and a dream. I bought my first chicks with hope and courage. No guarantee, no promises, only faith and sleepless nights. People laughed. Of course, you will understand how villagers talk, yeah? They said from a banker to a chicken farmer. They asked with smiles that doubted. But while they slept, I was learning. While they mocked, I was building. While fear whispered, I worked. The early mornings became my training ground. The farm became my classroom, and every chicken, it was a lesson in patience, discipline, and of course profits. I didn't quit my job to escape work. I quit my job to own my work, because sometimes to raise, you must first of all dare to fall. So I had to quit my job, but really, I didn't start small. I started brave. 500 broilers and 500 layers, as you can see them. 1,000 chances to either fail loudly or succeed boldly. Of course, my savings became my seed. Every shilling that I had, it had a purpose. Every decision carried weight. So I had already built the shelter with my own hands, not so perfect, not fancy, but very strong enough to hold a dream. The chicks arrived like whispers of hope, tiny, very fragile, yet full of promise, as you know. But broilers, I chose broilers because of their speed, and layers for the long game. I knew that one for quick returns and one for steady income. So I started feeds like textbooks, vaccines like exam papers, and cleanliness like a religion. Because on the farm, really, you know that discipline is what will give you profit. Some days were loud with life, others were quiet with worry, but every sunrise reminded me that I was no longer building someone else's dream. I knew I was building my own dream. So imagine, from suits to gumboots, from targets to harvest, and from stress to strategy. And slowly, that is how my farm began to speak the language of profits. You might be asking, how much did I invest? So this is the thing. I did not jump into chicken farming blindly. I jumped there prepared. By the time I left my job, chickens were not strangers to me. I had already practiced, and you know my videos. I had already practiced, I had observed, I had fed quietly and learned loudly. The structures were already standing because I had already had some poultry or some chicken farming earlier before joining the job. The feeders were in place, the drinkers were ready, the market contacts were saved in my phone already. And also I had the knowledge. The knowledge was already in my hands. So when the time came, I didn't start from zero. I started from experience at least. My savings became my foundation, not millions of course, and these were not miracles, just disciplined planning and some courage. So 500 broilers, 500 layers, feeds, vaccines, transport, and labor. Every shilling had a mission. Every decision had a reason. This was not gambling. This was a strategy. I wasn't running away from my job really. I was running toward a future that I wanted to build for myself. Let us talk about the first challenges and losses. This is the reality check. Imagine dreams are beautiful, but reality is honest. For my farm, the first weeks were not very gentle. Some chicks didn't survive. Some feeds were too expensive. Some nights were too long. Diseases knocked without warning, weather tested my patience, and mistakes reminded me that farming is not for the lazy people. There were days I questioned my decision, moments when fear whispered like, should I go back to job or should I continue with the chicken farming? But I decided to stay. I learned and I adjusted. Of course, losses became lessons and problems became my teachers. Because on the farm, you don't just raise chickens. You raise resilience, persistence, and everything that entails farming. Daily routine on the farm is the new life. After quitting my job, of course, my morning routines changed, but my purpose grew. Because I no longer wake up to alarms, I wake to responsibility. Of course, at sunrise, I check the birds, I clean the drinkers, I measure the feeds, observe their movements. Because healthy chickens speak through their language and through their energy, through their appetite, through their silence. If you know your chickens better, they always speak to you and they call out your name. So by mid-morning, I am planning sales, calling buyers, tracking growth. Afternoons are for maintenance, repairs, records, reflections, and evenings bring peace. Not exhaustion, not traffic, just quiet satisfaction. I work so hard, yes, but I work free. I have no boss, no targets, just progress and monitoring how my farm is doing. So you might be asking how much I made out of the 1,000 chickens. This is the truth. The farm began to speak. No, of course, not in words, but in numbers. Broilers matured very fast, and within the first 6 weeks, I had sold everything. Layers started producing eggs, and the market responded. So sales became very consistent, and income became steady, and profits became very real. What I once earned monthly, the farm now matched and sometimes exceeded. But more than money, I gained my control of my time, control of my energy, control of my future. I was no longer surviving. I was building. Not just a farm, but a legacy. Some people spend their time in polished offices, spending their lives working for dreams that are not theirs. They wake up tired, they go to sleep empty, and they call it normal job. They just want to survive. But you are not created for survival. You are created for a purpose. I left my comfort to find the calling. I left the salary to build the future. And in the simple life of the farm, I discovered something powerful. Freedom is not found in offices. It is found in ownership. If you feel stuck, if your spirit feels restless, maybe it is time to listen. Because sometimes your breakthrough is waiting in the place where you are afraid to go. This is not just my story. It can be yours too. Please subscribe.